Good evening. I'm calling to order the meeting of the Pittsboro Town Board for Monday, October the 9th, 2023. And will you please join me in a moment of silence? Thank you. Commissioner Farrell, will you lead us in the pledge?
Would everyone rise for the pledge?
Oh, wait a minute.
Where did the flag go? Uh-oh.
We'll just imagine that it's,
Trying to face the pole. Pole that way. Face it. Oh, there's a flag there.
Sorry for the little, but we'll be right back with you. You sing it off.
while we're waiting, why don't we introduce members of the staff who are with us today. We have our Chief of Police, Shorty Johnson. We have Carrie Bailey on the backside over here, our town clerk. At the table, we have Paul Messick, our town attorney, Kent Jackson, our assistant manager, and I believe that's it for staff members. There'll probably be some staff on the Zoom. And yes, Heather Meacham, our finance director, is on Zoom, as is Daniel Snipes. Daniel is our fairly new head of the Public Works Department.
I believe we can just use the one on the screen here.
Oh, very nice.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. You have the agenda before you, and I'll be glad to entertain a motion to either amend the agenda in some fashion or to accept it as is. Motion to approve as indicated. Thank you. Motion by Mayor Pro-Tem Baldwin,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Vose. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. We have the pleasure today of doing a proclamation for 2023 Great Trails State Day. And our proclamation reads as follows. Whereas the town of Pittsboro's natural beauty is critical to its residents' quality of life, health, and economic well-being, and whereas the trails that span across our community are an integral part of the recreational and transportation possibilities of our area and promote an enjoyment of scenic beauty by our residents and visitors. And whereas the parks, greenways, trails, and natural areas in our community are welcoming to all and provide a common ground for people of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds to access our rich and natural and diverse natural, cultural, and historic resources. And whereas the town of Pittsboro's nature trails vary in providing many different outdoor experiences in atmosphere, surface, and locations. And whereas trails offer quality of life benefits to all as expressions of local community character and pride, as outdoor workshops for science education, as tools for economic revitalization, as free resources for healthy recreation, an accessible alternative transportation, and as sites for social and cultural events. And whereas the North Carolina General Assembly designated 2023 as the Year of the Trail in North Carolina to promote and celebrate the state's extensive network of trails that showcase our state's beauty, vibrancy, and culture. And whereas North Carolina is known as the Great Trails State, whereas we will be celebrating this day by having our Halloween Trails and Treats event on the Greenway at Night Farm Park on Saturday, October 21st from 2 to 4 p.m., where residents will enjoy walking the trail while collecting sweet treats along the way. Now, therefore, I, Cindy Perry, Mayor, do hereby proclaim October 21st, 2023 as Great Trails State Day in the town of Pittsboro and commend its observation to all people. Further, I urge all citizens to explore the trails of Pittsboro on this day and join other communities across North Carolina in celebrating Trails Day on October 21st. Dated this, the 9th of October, 2023, and I will be signing this, and the town clerk will sign it for this resolution to be proclamation to be carried forward on the books of the town. And it is certainly true that we have some wonderful parks, and I think that we can all feel very pleased about what we have done to develop those parks and enjoy them as well. I noticed there's some really beautiful decorations around town that celebrate the Page Vernon Park and up and down the street. So we look very, very festive this year. All right, our first matter is Citizens Matters. And Jonathan Franklin, would you give us manager updates?
Yes, ma'am. The strategic plan development is progressing. We hope to have your draft next couple of weeks. On October 20th, the Hall River Assembly will be putting together a trash trail from Robeson Creek to trash down the litter and waterway. Hugh Harrington's term on the ABC board expires in December, so we'll be advertising that open position this week. So if anybody that wants to be on the ABC board, encouraged to apply. The ABC board is also looking for a liaison from the Board of Commissioners. So that's something that you all may want to consider there. And then lastly, Kent's got an update on saying Arlington.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. So we know mid-September, we had a 1,4-dioxane incident. The release happened at a chemical company in the Burlington, one of the Burlington sewer sheds, and was released via the South Burlington wastewater treatment plant. So after receiving notification on Friday, the 22nd, staff has maintained steady contact with Burlington staff on ensuing efforts to identify the source and their follow-up efforts. So some of our latest updates, City of Burlington has identified to a far degree the likely source of the 1,4-dioxane contamination. They are not able to say with 100% certainty, but they feel pretty sure due to high levels of 1,4-dioxane that was sampled in this industry's trunk line. So they have been working with this industry on in a couple of ways. They issued a notice of violation to the company for exceeding pH limits in their discharge, which is within their sewer ordinance to do that. That was a side effect, if you will, of the 1,4-dioxane release. They've had additional follow-up meetings with the company and with NCDEQ. Burlington is currently working on a industrial user permit for this company, which is something, again, within Burlington sewer use ordinance that will allow them to require continuous monitoring for 1,4-dioxane. Because this company has not reached the limits that the state sets for being a CIU or SIU, this tool within Burlington's local ordinance will allow them to issue a permit that will establish a ongoing testing. So that is certainly a good measure. We appreciate that creativity on City of Burlington's part. The only other part of that I'm aware of, the state has imposed a requirement for weekly testing at the South Burlington wastewater treatment plant for 1,4-dioxane and monthly testing at both the south and the east wastewater treatment plants in Burlington. So, the collection of those activities certainly will, bring in increased scrutiny on the contamination to certainly prevent or at least mitigate to a far degree a future significant event. So happy to answer any questions that I can.
Thank you, Ken. Any questions for Ken? All right. And that's your report.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to say that it was a pleasure yesterday to, on Saturday, what's Sunday, wasn't it?
Sunday and Saturday.
To welcome folks here at the Ag Center for a wonderful event, which has become an annual event for Representative Robert Reeves and his birthday event. And there were a lot of public officials here, both from the Sanford area where he was raised and where his father still serves from Board of Commissioners, and from jurisdictions all around us. So it was a nicely attended event and lots of good fellowship and well wishes for Representative Reeves. I have a coming ribbon or two to cut this next week, and it's always good to get to see the new businesses coming to town and welcome them as well. So that's all I have today, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you very much. Mayor Perry, I actually don't have anything to report other than just to agree with you. The event for Representative Reeves was outstanding, and it was good to see lots of people and everyone fellowship together. So it was a very nice event.
Thank you. Commissioner Bonitz.
Nothing to report other than to echo what you've both said about a very nice event.
Thank you. Commissioner Farrell.
Other than the Pittsboro Business Association, I will be attending that Wednesday. That's.
All right. And Commissioner Shipp.
Thank you, Mayor. On Thursday, September 28th, we had the Be Great Breakfast for the Boys and Girls Club of Central Carolina. So good turnout for that, good event. Also attended the Chatham County Schools admin building ribbon cutting that day. So that facility is officially open now and working. Really nice thing to have out there. This last Friday, I attended a affordable housing seminar at the UNC School of Government, and it was focused on how government can encourage private developers to develop affordable housing. So I've already set up a follow-up meeting from that, and we hope to make some progress there. I was not able to attend the AHAC meeting, but we do have an EDC meeting coming up October 26th that I'll attend.
Thank you so much. And Commissioner Vose.
I was also at the ribbon cutting for the school department central services building on Thursday, the 28th, and otherwise I have nothing.
Thank you. We have time for public comment, and I believe that sort of as a continued discussion from what Kent Jackson had indicated, I believe we have Emily Sutton with the Haw River Assembly to speak to us. I want to go ahead and let you know that she has asked for permission, and I have granted it for her to be a bit over the usual 3-minute limit, given that it's a matter of great importance and a matter of great complexity. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you, Mayor Perry. I will say I tried my hardest to consolidate this, so I will keep it as brief as I can. Mayor Perry has also said that I have some time for questions at the end, so I want to make sure that you all know ahead of time I'm here to answer questions. So Mayor Perry and Jonathan asked me to present to you all tonight on a very important and increasingly urgent matter. This is a lot of information that I've tried to condense for you. The city of Asheboro has just recently challenged their wastewater discharge permit issued by North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. This permit in its current form is protective of downstream communities like Sanford. It has a limit of 0.35 micrograms per liter for 1,4-dioxane. That limit is based on the Toxic Substances Act, a North Carolina state law that sets narrative standards for all known carcinogens based on the 1 in 1 million cancer risk. The EPA has not yet set drinking water standards for 1,4-dioxane, but has set health advisory limits based on the 1 in 10,000 cancer risk. Now, North Carolina has deemed that any risk higher than 1 in a million for cancer risk is too high for known carcinogens. And over 140 carcinogens have narrative standards based on this North Carolina law. North Carolina, through this permit, has set a compliance schedule for Asheboro based on what they are currently capable of. Asheboro has worked to identify the sources within their system. StarPet, who has released levels of over 375,000 micrograms per liter of 1,4-dioxane, has installed treatment technology, but it is routinely failed. This permit would also require notifications for any exceedances, not only notifications to North Carolina DEQ, but to downstream communities. North Carolina has worked with Asheboro, Greensboro, Reedsville, and now Burlington to try to negotiate these limits and compliance schedules through upcoming permits. This permit is a result of those negotiations. Now that Asheboro has challenged this permit, if it is successful, it would remove North Carolina DEQ's authority to enforce any 1,4-dioxane limit. So this is not a debate between 0.35 or 35 or 80 micrograms per liter. If this challenge were successful, there would be no limits for 1,4-dioxane. What is worse, Reedsville has requested to intervene on behalf of Asheboro's challenge, but adds that North Carolina doesn't have the authority to enforce any narrative standards through that Toxic Substances Act, which applies to over 140 known carcinogens. Other cities are paying attention to this case because they are waiting to challenge their own permits. If this permit challenge is successful, Greensboro, Reedsville, and Burlington will not have 1,4-dioxane limits. Greensboro's special order by consent expires May of 2024, when a new permit with 1,4-dioxane limits is supposed to go into effect. A successful challenge to this permit would mean that Greensboro is no longer required to monitor or limit or alert DEQ and downstream communities if a slug goes through their system. It's important to note here that Greensboro, because of their SOC, has consistently had low levels, no higher than 6 micrograms per liter, since those spikes in 2021, which were 823 and 617 micrograms per liter. Reedsville has consistently had levels below 3 micrograms per liter since a spike in 2021 of 319. Asheboro had a spike this year of 1,130 micrograms per liter. But with this regulatory permitting, monitoring, and enforcement, it is very possible to keep these levels of this known carcinogens below dangerous levels. This directly impacts Pittsboro in several ways. If Asheboro challenges their permit, unchecked levels of 1,4-dioxane will be discharged into Sanford's drinking water supply, which has yet to commit treatment for 1,4-dioxane. But in the short term, upstream dischargers in the Hawk will also be discharging unchecked levels of 1,4-dioxane from Greensboro, Reedsville, and Burlington without requirements for monitoring or downstream notification. So Haw River Assembly is urging Pittsboro to intervene on the case on behalf of North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. This permit is strong enough as it's written to protect downstream communities, but flexible enough to allow for those compliance schedules and reasonable expectations for wastewater utilities to meet. I understand that you all will not likely meet for another 2 weeks to discuss this, but if at all possible, I encourage you to act quickly. We are happy to set up meetings with staff. Southern Environmental Law Center has offered the same, and board, to answer any questions. But as this case moves forward with Ashboro and Reedsville, the window of opportunity will get smaller for impacted communities to intervene. I've printed out these long comments for all of you to have, so you have all the numbers and details. You can take it home with you. But I'm happy to answer any questions.
I'm not sure it's a question, as much as it is. It's certainly true that Pittsboro values its relationship with upstream. I'm not quite sure whether to call them partners, because there has, quite frankly, been a bit of an edge with some of the relationships. And it's been through pressure, both from you and from members of this community to bring the issue of 1,4-dioxane into light, shall we say. So this is an administrative hearing. It's not a regular court hearing. But administrative law in North Carolina does allow for a hearing. And so that what you're asking us to do is consider a motion to intervene. Is that correct?
That's correct. Mhm.
And do we have any idea what the timeline is for hearing this?
We don't. So I did ask our folks at SCLC that question, and they said that because Reedsville has already petitioned to intervene, they haven't been accepted in that case yet, but that's the process that they're in right now. So we expect the actual case proceedings to start within the month or two, but I can't give you a more specific range than that.
Okay.
And I would like to add one thing that you just mentioned. Mr. Jackson earlier talked about Burlington's actions that they took proactively for 1,4-dioxane. You all know that we were involved in litigation against Burlington for PFAS spills. I will say that the city of Burlington acted proactively. I wish that it would have never happened, but we're fortunate to have good faith staff at that utility right now in this moment in time. These permits would formalize those, good faith relationships for if there's a slug that passes through, they're required to notify you. That's not just a handshake and an agreement. It's a formal requirement. And so that to me gives me a lot of comfort knowing that if the staff changes or if, relationships change, that is a formalized agreement, regardless of, how those relationships are at the moment.
Thank you. I don't know if there are any other questions, but I think that what we've talked about is putting this matter on the agenda for the next meeting and in a formal kind of way to answer the question as to whether we should be intervening or not. And I expect we'll want to hear from our town attorney as well as others. Is that all right? Okay, we'll set it for then. Thank you so much, Emily.
Sure. If there's no further questions, I'd love to pass out the printed out things that I have for you. You take it.
And I'm sure Carrie Bailey is already on top of it, but I'd like for it to be entered into the record.
All right. Is there any other public comment? No one else had signed up, but sometimes.
Mayor, you have two people signed up.
Oh, yes, that's right. Mhm. Yes, thank you. Bobby Robertson, would you come and address the board, please?
I'm Vicki Robertson, the other half.
Yes, and you're signed up too.
We were here in September, and when we got here, when we left, we thought that we were okay with the whole board about rezoning our property. But then I talked to Mr. Messick the next day and Randy the next day. And Randy informed me that there could be a 1,200 square foot house built behind our daughter-in-law and our son's house for our family that's in Idaho. Well, then I had an hour-long meeting with him. Then on the 21st of September, he told me to go to the Soil and Water Conservation, and I did. And I talked to Susanna Golston, and she gave me this letter. She sent this letter to him. But he, as of October the 3rd, he has not responded to her. And so I was informed to bring this letter to y'all and let you all read it according to, I'm not a lawyer, I'm just a regular person, a farmer. We're a bona fide farm, and according to this, we are exempt from your jurisdiction and from the county's jurisdiction, and we're wanting to know how you put us in M2 when we are a bona fide farm. And we didn't pay anything, we weren't asked any questions, we weren't given any answers, we didn't get a chance to vote when we were put in M2. So why are you charging us $4,200 to put us back in something when you don't have any jurisdiction over us?
Well, ordinarily, Ms. Robertson, this is not a question and answer kind of a format, but I'm assuming that if you've been speaking with our town attorney, that he can give us advice about how it is that he feels the board can deal with this. I do recognize the idea that I think the very first line of the statute that deals with zoning says essentially, thou shalt not zone a bona fide farm. And that's always been sort of the, the statute starts out with that. And so I'm well aware of that. So if I certainly understand what you're saying, and what we can do is we can speak with our town attorney and get back to you about in answer to your question. But ordinarily, we don't do it in the context of a meeting like that.
Well, Randy told me that we would have to go before the planning board. And before we did that, we'd have to pay the $4,200. Then we were not guaranteed that we would be put back in RA. I've talked to him. The next time I went to talk to him, I stayed in his office for 3 hours, and I still don't have any answers. Our grandson got married to a beautiful woman on Saturday afternoon. While y'all were doing Reese's birthday party, we were doing a wedding down on the farm. And they wanted to build a house, and we don't want to keep on waiting. We want an answer. I'm just asking, why do you have to vote on it? Why does anybody have to do anything? But we want to be put back in RA. And sooner the better.
So I may be wading in a risky way, but I very much appreciate your concerns and your position and your uncertainty. It must be very uncomfortable.
It's frustrating because we, according to this, we're not in the town's jurisdiction or the county's jurisdiction, except for you're telling us what we can and can't do on our farm.
Well, I think what we have to go with is what we have
in the documentation. And as I understand that, there was a request that originated with you or your family to change the zoning to industrial use some time ago.
It's never been, our family has never asked for it.
Never, ever has anybody in our family requested it be put in heavy industrial. That is absolutely not right.
I talked to Carrie, and my daughter-in-law sent her a note and asked her about it, and it was told that the county's supposed to tell us. So we're not getting a straight answer from anybody, and we're ready to get this over and done with.
Understood.
And the sooner the better.
Our story has never changed. We were not aware that it was ever put in M2, because if we were aware it was going to be put in M2, we would have been here just like we are now to oppose it being in. We have never, ever wanted that land to be put in M2. And there's no reason for us to have it to put in M2, because it's a family farm. My mom and daddy left it to us, and then we give it to our children. Our children are trying to give it to their children.
I understand, sir.
If there's any questions, ask me. I'll be glad to answer.
Presumed that when my mother passes, I will be the heir to her farm property. So I'm very sympathetic.
We want to continue on with the children having a place that they can put them a house and live on. And, you know, they could go somewhere else, but they don't want to go somewhere else. And at the price land is now, why should they have to go somewhere else and buy land when we have land right there, family farm? And everybody that lives on that farm down there, we're one big happy family down there. Nobody wants to leave that farm. Everybody wants to be there. We're one big happy family. Why would we ever want to sell that piece of property and go somewhere? And I tell everybody that asks me that wants to buy that farm, I tell them the same thing. You don't have enough money to buy the sentimental value, much less make a down payment on the land. And we have never varied one thing ever.
I wish all of you would come down there and look at the farm.
You're
Right
welcome.
now, we have 2 greenhouses that are full of tomato plants that are over 36 inches tall. We start selling tomatoes at the Durham Farmers Market, the winter tomatoes in December. You're welcome to come to our farm anytime. Randy, when I talked to him the first time, then I said, come to the farm. Then the next time I talked to him, he said, I came to your farm. He said, you're going to have to pave the road. I said, why should we pave a farm road? And then he told me, he said, no, it's going to have to be 22 feet wide. I says, well, it's 22 feet wide anywhere you want to look. And he didn't stop to let us know he was there at the house. It's a private drive, but you're welcome to come down there anytime you want to.
I would love for y'all.
We would love for you to
You
come.
know, if you could come and visit us and let us show what we got down there. Every watershed in this whole area, north, south, and east, comes together on our farm. 3 creeks all come together to make one that goes straight into the lake. We have every creek, we have buffered with trees to filter the water, and every field that we have is in grass to filter the water. And everybody always wants to do something about the environment. We're trying to do something about the environment.
Well, why can't we get some sort of an answer tonight with this letter?
That's just not possible, ma'am. The public comment period is for the public to comment. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to walk out of here with an answer to your question.
So do we go before the planning board again, or what do we do next?
I would ask the manager and the attorney if they have a suggestion about how they can get satisfaction on the answer to their question.
Yeah, this is the first time I've seen the bona fide farm approach.
What?
First time that I've seen the bona fide farm approach. So let's take a look at it and we'll get back to you with an answer.
This came from the state.
And the state is supposed to trump the county and the town.
We didn't print that up. The state did.
Well, we all know Susanna Golston, and she's a good steward and a good,
She's a very good person.
and we'll make sure that you get a satisfactory answer to your question, okay?
Okay,
I
thank
just
you.
want y'all to be sure to know one thing. We didn't have anything to do with that farm being put in M2. We have wanted to be the same farming, residential agriculture for the very reason that we told y'all about, and we haven't varied one bit.
Thank you.
Thank y'all for listening.
Appreciate your concern. I've been down there, went to your friend's wedding, and This is something we need to get on right away. I have talked to Bobby and Linda down there at the farm. I thought we was understanding regarding the county road being at 20 feet. Maybe Mr. Messick can verify that. And the 4,200, I was told was just fees to go forward with the plan. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So, and I guess Mr. Messick can concur on this. So if this is a bona fide farm, do we need to continue with any fees?
Continue what fee?
If it's under a bona fide farm, does it have to go under the planning board fee for the application?
The issue is, I'm not sure what their issue is, but if the issue is to change the zoning from industrial to residential, yes, absolutely.
Why is it,
Go ahead with the application.
If they want to change it to residential, yes.
but we didn't pay any money to change it to M2.
If they want to change the zoning from industrial
Right.
to residential, those are applications for all these parcels of property to be rezoned. And yes, they have to pay a fee. Yes, they have to go through the process involving the planning board and back to you all.
Even if the state statute says bona fide farm.
That's not the same question. The question is whether they can operate a farm on industrial property or on residential.
No, that's not the question.
I don't know what the question is then.
The question is, the state says that we're not under any of your jurisdictions.
It's not what the state said. It says that you're not subject to zoning for the bona fide farm operation. You are subject to all sorts of other regulations. And I don't know what your question is. Do you want to build a house? Is that the question?
No, we want it put back in RA, but,
RA, you have to have it.
excuse me, but we did not pay anything to put it in M2.
Yeah.
We did not sign anything to put it in M2. We didn't get a vote on it. So why should we have to pay to put it back in something that it was? This is the third time we've done it.
More respectfully, please.
I would think, Ms. Robertson, that it would be a situation where the documentation from what was the industrial change could be pulled up and looked at, and we could see
So we asked
exactly who it was that.
Ms. Bailey, and she said that it was the county supposed to tell us that. And the county hasn't got back to us.
Well, I'm sure that this matter will have expeditious treatment here because we understand how important this is for you and your farm, and we will make sure that you
I
get.
have one more question. I done forgot my train of thought now.
But we do want we want it rezoned to residential agriculture because we do want to put, like I said, when we were here before, for Myron and Pam to put their house there, and we have a grandson that got married this weekend and they want to put a house there. So yes, we do want to continue putting the houses there, but that's the thing, to get it out of M2 and get it to R1 so we can put houses.
We understand that, sir, and we'll be sure that somebody with the town staff will be contacted.
But I have a question. Why does it have to go before the planning board when y'all have the final say? Y'all vote on it.
That is just.
Why can't you just vote on it?
That is the procedure for it. The planning board.
The state says that we are not.
And they give a recommendation to this board. Sometimes we follow it and sometimes we don't. But
Thank you, Jay, for trying to help us.
And if y'all would like to come and, they say one picture's worth 1,000 words. So if y'all would like to come and see what we're talking about, we would be more than happy for you to.
well, thank you. We'll contact you. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Bob.
Next matter is the consent agenda. There are 9 items on the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as is, or to remove or modify an item from the consent agenda.
Mayor, I just have one comment on number 6. Maybe have to answer this real quick and we can move on.
Okay,
This annexation to the north section, is that the total of the rest of the land up there to be annexed?
Almost all of it.
Okay.
It's most of what's going to be in the large project in the north, but there's still a little bit, I think, west of 64 that they're keeping out of town for now until they get the plans. But this is most of it.
it's what, 1,400 acres?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Farrell, seconded by Commissioner Vose. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Motion carries unanimously. The next matter is a public hearing. Is there a motion to go into public hearing?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Bonitz,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Vose. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
The matter passes unanimously, and I understand that Jonathan Franklin will be talking to us about the community development grant for economic development for Gilero.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. In 2019, the town received a grant for Gilero, $300,000 for CDBG building reuse. That was to create 19 jobs, 60% of which going to persons residing in low and moderate income households. And to date, they have created all 19 jobs with a total of 17, 89.5% going to low to moderate income individuals. So this public hearing is just to start the closeout process. Go ahead and move this forward as they have let the job numbers they need to.
And part of what it is my intention to do following, as we go through the process to wind up the block grant is I visited Gilero not long ago, and they have made just an absolutely outstanding improvement to what was probably one of the ugliest old buildings in Pittsboro. And so it's my intention, along with the work to finish up the block grant, is to give them a letter of basically of congratulations for having done such beautiful work to the benefit of the town and their corporation. So are there any questions for Jonathan? If not,
Is there anyone from the public that has signed up to speak? Maybe you ought to put that in the record.
thank you. Is there anybody here who did not sign up that would like to speak on this particular matter? Hearing none. Is there a motion to go out of public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Shipp, seconded by Commissioner Vose. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries. And is there a motion to authorize me to sign the closeout forms and to congratulate the company on their fine improvement?
So moved.
Thank you. Motion by Mayor Pro-Tem Baldwin, seconded by Commissioner Vose. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, again, the motion carries unanimously. We have no old business tonight, no new business. And for information purposes, the Pittsboro ABC update, who will be bringing us that tonight?
Oh, it's just in there for information.
Oh, yes. Okay. Thank you. The statistical report that was in our package.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. I was not aware of funds coming in from the ABC group because, and yet there was in that report a tremendous amount of transfer to the town of Pittsboro. It used to be in the old days that Jim Noss would come and present us a check, and we were cognizant of what funds were being transferred from the ABC to the town, but that apparently is not the protocol anymore. Is anybody, I think we had a discussion one time about how the ABC folks were no longer giving to the town a percentage of the net profit.
No, I think it's monthly.
It is.
It's either monthly or quarterly. Happy to find out for you.
Okay, well, as long as I found the report to be very interesting because usually we have some interaction with the ABC.
So,
I think if there were any issue with that slide over, Heather would have certainly brought it up.
so just to clarify, on the report, it looks as if there was a distribution to the town and law enforcement of 62,000. Is that correct?
Yes, so from what I understand about general statutes, part of their contribution to the town has to go towards law enforcement.
Okay,
Which is typically just a piece of their, smaller piece of their overall budget.
it was 62,000, looks like, I guess.
I don't know exactly. That's what their report says. So.
Okay. We get some clarification, I guess, on that. To see, because she's right, at that one time, the ABC board did bring, she says it's quarterly.
Yeah, quarterly.
Okay.
And I think what we've had a discussion on before is, I think it's called retained earnings or something, a percentage of retained earnings, and that has been high in the past, and then more recently it's been nothing. So that's where the town has received less money from the ABC store operation, is the money on top of for law enforcement.
Okay. Well, because at one time, those funds were supposed to be going into the affordable housing if we got them on an ongoing basis, from my understanding, toward that. Do you all remember that?
I'm vague on the recollection,
Oh,
but
okay, so I guess I'm the only.
I think the last money we got for that, we used for the Robeson Creek
Mhm.
paving project.
That's right.
And after that, the ABC board made a determination they don't have retained earnings anymore. And so our share of the retained earnings doesn't matter.
yeah, they're trying to create a reserve for their next building and for upfits to the current building, as I recall.
But they don't have plans for the next building either, I think it says in here. So, I mean, overall, it'd be great if they would come and talk to us
I think so.
Yep.
for these.
Okay. Because overall, they are a committee that you all appoint.
Yep.
They, appoint to you or whatever. So if you want them here to give a report on the next one, they'll be here.
All right, I think that would be good.
I think so.
And could we take a look at the inflow to the affordable housing that Mayor Pro-Tem Baldwin recollects? I think that's an important,
Yeah, if there's anything in the minutes.
I think that's an important follow-up.
Because you remember, Ms. Kennedy indicated 1 penny of this would go toward, but I can't really.
That's
all the terms.
Budget in general.
Yeah, the budget in general.
Budget.
The budget in general,
Town.
but
Yes.
we also said something from the ABC proceeds were going to go to affordable housing, from what I recall, but I could be calling wrong. But if you.
I think it's worth
That would be
asking.
great.
Sure.
Thank you.
Very good. We'll check on that then. We have no closed session tonight, and so the question before the board is adjournment or further comment or questions.
Let's see, I think that I had some notes about some concerns, but I don't have them at my fingertips. But Mr. Franklin, I am curious if you have any further thoughts about formalizing some policy statements for climate.
Climate action plan? Once we finish the strategic plan, as I mentioned before, having 8 plans with no plan and how to actually get them in place. It's just a recipe for nothing to happen. So I'd like to finish the strategic plan. If the cap is something that's high priority for the board as a whole, then that will shine through. And then I think if that's something that is a high priority, then we move on with that one as well.
Anything further? All right. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Motion by Commissioner Shipp, seconded by Commissioner Farrell. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.